News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Boy, do we have an amazing and a lot of things to tell you about. So we're going to do that right now. And having a little technical difficulties, they're working on it. But so bear with me on a few things if it doesn't go as smoothly as I'd like it to. But I will tell you this. A man self-immolated today, and I could not tell you why. In fact, the ramblings of this man show something is definitely off with him. I'll play some of the audio first. We have the live happening of the immolations in front of the Trump trial in New York City on CNN. I'm going to play that for you first.
What do you say? We also are seeing an active shooter. An active shooter is in the park outside the court. We have a man who he has set fire to himself. A man has emblazoned himself outside of the courthouse just now. Our cameras are turning right now. A man has now lit himself on fire outside of the courthouse in Manhattan, where we are waiting for history to be made. A full jury panel is gone. We are watching a man who is fully emblazoned in the front of the courthouse today. We are watching multiple fires breaking out around his body and person. We have seen an arm that has been visible, that has been engulfed in total flames. We are watching as they're playing. We can smell the air. I can smell the burning of some sort of a flesh. I can smell the burning of some sort of agent being used as well as an accelerant to put that fire. I smell an actual fire extinguisher having been displayed. I see a person whose body appears to be on the ground being surrounded by officers. I have multiple officers. I count about a dozen officers on the scene. The fire is still burning. It's now in multiple locations. It continues to blaze. We right now have officers removing their coats, trying to surround this person. I have multiple people running over. Another fire extinguisher being brought out. This person's body continues to be engulfed in flames. A portion of his body is still engulfed in flames. A yellow smoke is billowing from on top of his person as it is engulfing the officers who are continuing to try to put out these flames that are continuing to emblazon. Now the officers are not visible.
Okay, here's some of the horrifying audio as folks watched it today in front of the Trump trial area where it was on the Trump side where people were, but it was sparsely populated. So horrifying. There's some audio of this guy in his post. I'll play a little bit of it before on his way up. It looked like driving or something in his car before he did this. Here he is from his social media post singing with clearly deeply mentally ill, deeply mentally disturbed.
Start a fucking revolution. Start a fucking revolution. Start a fucking revolution. You've got nothing to lose.
Okay, so the guy is deeply mentally disturbed. He is detached. He is not a Trump supporter, even though the left may try to do that. The media may try to do that. He appears to be mentally ill and very disturbed, and there's absolutely no emotion. He looks like no one's home, a sociopath or a psychopath or worse. Stop Anti-Semitism, who I follow, is a great national group that hunts down sick anti-Semitic people, Jew haters and terrorist types throughout our country. exposing them. Says this man who set himself on fire outside of the trial there with Trump in New York City, defended Hamas terrorists on Instagram, praised the kidnapping of hostages. They have many examples. All of this that I'm mentioning, everything I've played is on my Twitter feed at Chris Crock Show. That's at Chris Crock Show. Just two little things he posted. Beware popular leftist accounts that insist that the Palestinians have a history of oppression. He says, correct. In other words, they're oppressed. Beware the mass media that decry Hamas' wretched slaughter and hostage taking of Israel. Correct. He's against the decrying of Hamas. So he's a Hamas supporter and praised the kidnapping of the hostages. So the guy's crazy. And this reminds me of the other guy that did self-immolation. Do you remember that guy? We play that horrifying audio from that guy, and he was an absolute lunatic. He's dead. This guy today is alive. You can see the video if you want to. It's you have to click on the tweet to actually say, yes, I'm going to watch this. You can see his charred body. He's still alive. And it's absolutely horrifying. This man is terribly mentally ill and is detached from reality. The guy that did this, the airman who did this in front of the Israeli embassy a month or two ago, whatever that was when we talked about it, that guy was deeply mentally disturbed. They're both in support of Hamas and Gaza doing this crap, mentally ill people, and that's it. So this is the second deranged person that supports the terrorism, self-immolating. Supports the terrorism of the Israelis. I will ask a question or two on this, and then we're going to get into the attack last night from Israel on Iran and Iraq. What is your takeaway from this horrifying event, if any? And what similarities do you see between this one and the airman who self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy in D.C.? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. The similarities to me is they're both mentally ill. They both are anti-Semitic. Well, I can't say the airman was, although he was radically pro-Palestinian. They both supported the Hamas and Palestinian cause. That they do have in common, and they're mentally ill. That explains a lot of what we're seeing in these protests as well out there in the streets, radical leftist crazies. But nonetheless, that is that. I also want to get to the attack that Israel had, the pinprick. Some people are calling it brilliant because of the fact that it showed them, and I'm going to tell you this, the examples people are making of this is what's like where King Saul was hunting down and trying to kill David the shepherd. And if you remember this story in the Bible, the King Saul, as he was hunting David down to kill him, David went into a cave, cut a clipping of his robe, and later on showed him, look, here's your robe. I had a piece of it. If I wanted to kill you, I could have killed you. And that was literally what was said on Fox News today by one of their experts, that this is literally what they did. Israel said, look, we can go in, we can attack you right by your Natanz nuclear facilities. We know where it is. We can hit you, and you can't stop us, even with the Russian defense missiles and anti-air missiles that you have, and anti-drone missiles. Can't stop us. So in that respect, I guess that's interesting, but I wish they would have hit a lot harder. This is pathetic. The Biden administration also is disgusting with what they did. You know what they did last night? They literally said that the Biden administration literally said last night, it was Israel. It was Israel. It was Israel. It wasn't us. It was Israel. Israel never said anything. They will not say anything today. They're not confirming anything because they don't want to confirm anything. These incompetent these appeasement, incompetent Biden administration, really it's Joe Biden, in his efforts to appease and bow to Iran, bow to terrorists, to support terrorism by funding it tens of billions of dollars and letting the oil spigots flow. It's even worse than I've been telling you. It's not $8 billion so far. It's tens of billions a month with all the oil it's pumping that Joe Biden lets them, including giving them $7 billion for American hostages to get back. American prisoners, but they're really hostages. This administration bowed down to tell Iran, it wasn't us, it wasn't us, it wasn't us. Don't escalate. It was Israel. They literally came out, and Israel said, Israel has basically scolded Biden, but what the hell are you doing? We don't want anybody to know this. Why are you doing this? What are you doing? I'm going to give you more details on all this, but I want to ask you about that. We're going to play some more audio. Iraq was attacked too, reportedly, today we're hearing. I got pictures, I got audio. Our number, whether you want to talk about the self-immolation or if you want to talk about the strike, the pinprick, I think it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you, what they did. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. I'm going to give you some of the details, and you're going to hear some really compelling audio. There actually was a lot. They were hit pretty good, though, in one of these one of the strikes. That audio and explanation on that is coming up next. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Hey, coming up in 15 minutes, our guest who is becoming a friend of the show little by little, Tera Dahl, former Deputy Secretary, kind of one of the top dogs in the National Security Council under the Trump administration. She is joining me next. She's a host on America's Voice. She's a great expert and just a wonderful a friend of the show, and I'm grateful to have her on. She's coming on next. Fortuitive timing. I booked her the other day, so very fortuitive timing that she will be coming on with me in 15 minutes on the Chris Crock Show. Actually, about 12 minutes on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3. So 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Israel responds. Let me play some of the audio. There were 3 drones, is what folks say, as far as we know, that really were what struck in the Natanz area. That's the Natanz nuclear plant area, but it was not the nuclear plant, the underground, under the mountain plant, where they're making nuclear materials and eventually nuclear bombs. But it was at a base, and the base was hit hard. It was on fire. There were injuries. Iran's pretending it wasn't. Remember, Joe Biden literally came out, told his people to come out and say, it was Israel. And Israel's like, what the hell are you doing? Privately. Israel's like, I don't want this. No, we're not taking credit for this. What are you doing? Why are you attacking us by taking the other side? Oh, we're so afraid. We're so afraid of We're afraid of it escalating. Really? Why the hell are you kicking us in the shin? Why are you whizzing in our Cheerios? Why are you putting a turd in the punch bowl? That's the incompetency and the feckless scaredness, running scared of the Biden administration. So here's some of the audio that came across the wire today. A couple of things. First of all, channels of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are reporting that at least 8 members of their popular mobilization forces in Iraq have been killed. So they struck in Iraq. I say we, but because they're our brothers and sisters, but they struck in Iraq and they've been killed. Dozens of people have been injured as well. 8 have been killed, but dozens injured. And what is claimed to have been an Israeli airstrike in the Kalsu base in the Babylon Governorate. Second of all, senior Iraqi official told PBS NewsHour that the explosions at the Kalsu base in the Babylon government of eastern Iraq is believed to have been caused by an Israeli airstrike. Here's some audio from the Babylon government area. Here we go. And here is also some audio of massive flames, and you can see it as well. This is on my Twitter feed at Chris Crock Show. And I also have some video, audio. This is from more of it on Baghdad. Almost the entire base is on fire, is what this report says. Here, listen to this. It's better for video. Here is the other one. This is gonna be better.
الضربة هنا صارت.
You see a lot of fire. I mean, it's pretty bad. Now here we see in this is still on the Kalsu base, all the injuries. They're wheeling in a lot of people. Then, so there was a lot of stuff. Here's some audio from last night's attack in Iran. And let's see. Here we go. Those are some badass sounds, if you will. So here's what we got. 185 drones, 36 cruise missiles, 110 surface-to-surface missiles, and Joe Biden said, just say you won, take the win. There was no win. Their answer was this. Their answer was just do a few strikes in tiny ones in Iran. By the Natanz nuclear facility, they hit the F-14 base. At least the F-14 planes are in that area as well. One of my listeners was mentioning that last night via Twitter, and they were right. So that's what they hit. But the Israeli statement won't make any statement, but Joe Biden already did. Said it was Israel. Just unbelievable. I mean, that's they're literally kicking their little brother in the shin and blaming them. Like the cookie jar has a cookie out of it, and they're saying, who's them? So that's Joe Biden. This means Iran has said they're going to strike back and stuff, but they're most likely not going to, and this is probably going to be it. Also, they're saying death by 1,000 cuts is going to be the process. That is kind of what they're saying, death by 1,000 cuts, and that came in the Daily Mail today. When they say death by 1,000 cuts, they mean he's going to do a lot more things. Netanyahu will, but it's going to be one-offs here, one-off there, and such. I think that's fine, but I wish it was much harder and much more punitive and much more overt for the world to see. And I really think it kind of sucked, to be honest with you. So your thoughts on that strike, we're going to take your thoughts. I'm going to give you a lot more information on that coming up next. But I want to do my interview. We're going to be talking to Tera Dahl, former Deputy National Security member of the National Security Council with President Trump, former President Trump. She joins me next. She's with Real America's Voice as one of their hosts. She'll join us coming up next on the Chris Crock Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. Well, love having Tera Dahl on. She is former deputy chief at the National Security Council to President Trump. She's also a host on America's Voice. Does a fantastic job. I was watching some of her work today. And she also can be followed on, it's called America's Voice. The show is Special Report. She can also be followed on Instagram at Tera, Tera_Dahl, Dahl. Tera joining us live. Tera, thank you so much for coming on, first of all. We enjoy having you on.
Thank you, Chris. It's so great to be with you and your audience tonight.
Well, I mean, what a very, very fortuitous time to have you on the day after, literally 24 hours after Israel attacked Iran. It looks like, and not only that, but Iraq. Tell me what you know about this attack, the scope of it, and then I want to hear how you think about Biden handled it. It was unbelievable what happened after the attack.
Yeah, so you're talking about, Chris, the attack from Israel to Iran or Iran and to
Sorry,
Israel?
Forgive me. Iran to Israel. Excuse me. Israel to Iran.
Saturday.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Israel to Iran last night. Well, that was a very limited in scope. I think it was meant to send a very clear warning to Iran that they will target inside Iran and they will target their nuclear facilities. They did not hit the actual facilities, but it was one of those very precise strikes right next to it. And that sent a very clear message. And I think two messages were sent yesterday, Chris. I think the one was sent to Iran that we will hit. We know exactly where to hit. And it was also a message, I think, sent to Biden saying we will go alone. We don't need to have you with us. We don't need to get your permission. That we will do what we need to do to be able to defend our country. And another significant point that I think isn't getting the attention, Dr. Walid Phares, he wrote the book, Iran. He's been on your show, Chris.
Yes.
He's a foreign policy expert, has written numerous books on the Middle East. And he is one of the best experts when it comes to this, Iran and the Middle East policy. But he was saying that, it wasn't a strike by Israel into Iran yesterday, but it was also in coordination with operators inside Iran. And I think that is what the message that Iran took, because if you know, the foreign minister of Iran, before they struck yesterday, who happens to be in New York City, by the way, who should never be on U.S. soil, is in New York City when this happened yesterday. He came out before and said that, we will even reconsider our nuclear options to be able to strike back at Israel if they do respond. But then after the strike yesterday, they were silent. They said that they will not respond. They will not have any additional retaliatory strikes. So I think the message was sent that there's forces inside, and the greatest threat to Iran is the people, as you know. It's the people of Iran. Only 20% of the population of Iran, of the 88 million population in Iran, supports the regime. 80% do not support the regime. And it's the fastest growing church, Chris.
Wow.
They believe there's 1 million Christians right now in Iran.
Wow.
Fastest growing church. So those are all things that the greatest threat to Iran, it's their people.
Right. That's great. Okay, so when you say operators coordinated with them on the ground, because I know they have a lot of people in there who go in with whether it be, I don't know if it's not the Mossad, but the other one. I don't know who's going in there, but did you ever see the show? And you can laugh at me, by the way, Tehran on Apple TV?
No, I haven't.
It's really good with Glenn Close and stuff. And they have operatives within the country undercover with the Israeli special, intelligence services or whatever. So are you saying that was operators as far as intelligence types that are on the ground there helping them coordinate it, or something of that nature? What do you think the nature of that was, and how did it incorporate to these strikes? I don't understand that part.
There were operators within coordinating with the Israelis to do the drone strikes. So you had operators on the ground,
right,
and then coordinating with the Israelis.
Like given the exact coordinates.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's right.
For the facilities. And that's why, you have the precision. You have the very precise strike.
So it was 3 drones. That's all it is as far as we know, right?
Yes. Yep. That's what.
So that's like suicide drones, or if you were to guess?
Possibly.
Okay.
Suicide drones, and then the anti-aircraft missiles, and that's what went off in the explosions that you saw from Iran's own anti-missile defense.
I saw they also attacked one of an Iranian RCG proxy base in Iraq. Is that accurate? Yes,
and tonight. Are you speaking tonight with the attacks were in the PMF, Popular Mobilization Forces? Tonight, the Iranian-backed base that was hit tonight.
Whoa! I didn't know that.
Yes, so that's going on just tonight. A couple hours ago, there was another strike from an unmanned. CENTCOM came out tonight and said it wasn't the U.S. because a lot of people were saying, hey, it was the U.S. that just hit these Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. The Popular Mobilization Force, their base was basically set on fire. There's wounded, there's injuries tonight, and that was just going on now a couple hours ago. Israel, an Israeli official came out to CNN and said it wasn't us, but Israel never claimed responsibility. They didn't claim responsibility for the strike in Iran. They didn't claim responsibility for the strike in Syria. So they don't claim responsibility, but it's kind of, who did it.
Yes. Tera Dahl, former deputy chief at the National Security Council under President Trump, host of Special Report on Real America's Voice. And, of course, on Instagram, Tera, Tera _Dahl, DAHL, on Instagram. I want to ask you a few more things. One of the things I read in the Daily Mail today was talking about death by 1,000 cuts, that Netanyahu would hit Iran with something like you just saw today in the Iraqi IRCG base, if you want to call it that. Do you think that's accurate, that he's chosen to do the pinprick strike yesterday and do this strike today to do death by 1,000 cuts and never take credit for any of it publicly?
Absolutely.
So you think more's coming?
I absolutely do.
More's coming then as well, you think?
I think so. They have to. And why wouldn't it? Like you were saying earlier on your show, I was listening, Chris, you made such a great point, because why wouldn't the U.S., like you said, they were saying it wasn't us. Why wouldn't they come out and be strong and say, you hit our U.S. bases? They hit our U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria over 180 times just since October 7th. They killed 3 service members. 100 of our troops have been wounded. And we're like saying, oh, it wasn't us, we don't want to go to war. We should say, we're going to pound you with the largest bomb we have and annihilate you if you hit us again. So
that angers me so much, because Israel didn't want to get any credit for it, and these idiots come out and say it was Israel last night. What is that? What is this? What is this?
Because they don't want to have an escalation. Their whole thing is de-escalation. Well, it's the wrong way. That's how you escalate a war. You escalate it through weakness.
Exactly. Biden has walked us backwards into war, and the war we're seeing in the Middle East and the war we're seeing in Ukraine, all is because he's walked us backwards into a war by starting with the horrific Afghanistan withdrawal. Correct?
100%. And I think that was Jimmy Carter's. Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal is comparable to Jimmy Carter's 1979 Iran allowing the Shah to be removed by the mullahs. And that is what we're dealing with now for decades. So that is what we're going to have to be dealing with in Afghanistan. There's over 23 terrorist organizations operating now in Afghanistan. Not to mention Iran's influence, China's influence, giving up Bagram, which we could have at a strategic air base in Bagram right now.
Yes, close to China, in Afghanistan, close to Iran, all this stuff. It's unbelievable. And the lies about over-the-horizon technology is a joke. We all know that. Okay, so number one, do you think, the other thing, too, is that what it disturbed me that Israel did not hit hard last night. Before I ask you about that, I also wanted to ask you about another theory I heard. Can you hold and do a little bit more with me in the next segment, or if it's
absolutely.
Thank you, Tera. I really appreciate you. Stand by. Tera Dahl.
Thank you.
She's a host of at Real America's Voice on Special Report every day, weekday. She's also follow her on Instagram at Tera, Tera _Dahl, DAHL, and we're going to continue discussing with her. She's former deputy chief at the National Security Council under President Trump, and hopefully she'll be in that administration again here shortly by January. Coming up next, I want to ask her about whether she thought Israel actually hit hard enough. And there's a theory that I was mentioning earlier. It's like when David clipped Saul's robe when King Saul was hunting him down, trying to kill him, that this literally is what they did, according to one expert I heard today. We'll see what Tera thinks about that. Coming up next on the Chris Kroc Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. So talking to Tera Dahl, a former deputy chief at the National Security Council at the Trump administration. Hopefully she'll be on the administration again after he gets reelected this fall. Also now host at America's Voice. Special Report is the name of the show. And on Instagram at Tera, Tera_Dahl, Dahl. And I really appreciate you giving us a little more of your time tonight, Tera, after the strikes in that Iraq did in Iran and Iraq. So a couple of questions. I heard today on another network that somebody compared this to like when King Saul, as you know, was hunting down David and going to kill him, and David was able to get in and sneak into a cave, clip a little piece of Saul's robe off, and then show him when Saul approached him the next time and said, "Look, I could have killed you. I didn't." That this was like what Israel did in Iran last night. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I think that's a perfect way to put it because, like I said, it was a very precise strike, and you had the operators inside Iran. So that is where I think it really puts Iran on their heels, because that is, like we just said previously, that is their greatest threat.
Do you think Israel will take out their nuclear capabilities before they get a bomb? Because, I mean, apparently they're pretty dang close to getting bombs that could be shot on some of their attached on some of their ballistics. They're at 60% enrichment. I've heard higher. Tell me about that part. Do you think Israel? I've always thought Israel will take care of that for us, and we'll all deny it. Or what's going to happen with that? Do you think, or will they be able to get one? Because once they do, it's a game over.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They'll have to, because like their very existence, Israel's very existence is at hand. That's what they're facing. I mean, when Iran says that they'll go nuclear, they want to wipe Israel off the face of the map. I mean, that's what their goal is. And it's America as well, right? We're the big Satan, Israel's the little Satan.
Yes.
So that's their intention, is to do that. And so Israel they know that they cannot allow that, but Israel has the capabilities to be able to set them back decades if they wanted to. And it wouldn't be through the missiles, it would be in other ways that they could set them back to the Stone Age. And so I think Iran knows that, and that's where I think they are not going to push it. But we have to keep in mind, too, is that it's the regime. When you go back to before 1979 under the Shah, Israel and Iran, they weren't diplomatic partners. They didn't have diplomatic relations, but they had oil for arms. You literally had an Iranian general under the Shah be in Israel, and they were working on missile defense for Iran. So that is the partnership. So they had good relations. And Iran, under the Shah, was the only country to recognize Israel.
Wow.
The right to exist. So, and there is such a strong Iranian opposition, Chris. I've been to the conferences, in Paris, where you have just mass conferences for the opposition of Iran. I've attended those, and you have Arab culture, you have Arab leaders there. You have Saudis, you have the Emirates, you have Qatari, even Qatar, the royal family there. You have every Arab country, and that's why you need to have an Arab coalition to be able to stand with Israel. What you're seeing right now with Saudi Arabia, Jordan. Why does Jordan? Because Iran is targeting Jordan next. Jordan is in a very delicate situation right now with Iranian influence, and they are targeting Jordan. And so they know that they have to be able to stand together as a coalition. And that's going to be what Iran needs to do, is really have regime change.
Tera, did Israel hit back hard enough? And what should they have done differently? Because I kind of wish they would have hit back harder.
I think they have to pick their battles right now. I just returned from Israel back. I was there last month, or in February I was there, and then I had been there again in November since the war. And right now they have to pick their battles. You've got 70,000 Israelis that have been evacuated from the north of Israel because of the threat from Hezbollah. You've got 70,000 Israelis that have been evacuated from the south because of the threat of Hamas, who have not been able to move back home yet. So right now, their number one threat that they want to be able to eliminate is Hamas. And so the negotiations, it sounds like with the United States, Qatar newspaper came out a couple of days ago and said, the U.S. basically said, if you don't strike Iran, we'll give you the go-ahead to go into Rafah. We won't go with you, but you can go ahead. We won't stop you, which ultimately the United States is negotiating with Iran and negotiating with Israel. They're trying to do a two-state solution. So I think Netanyahu needs to be extremely strong in taking out Hamas, because that's where the Israeli people are saying, hey, you've got to eliminate Hamas.
This immediate direct threat next to us. Okay, last but not least, because I know we gotta roll in a second. I know you'd like to enjoy your Friday night probably. Does Biden have Israel's back, and what should he be doing with Iran and with China? Because I think he doesn't have their back, truthfully.
Oh, he 100% does not have his back. I would agree with you. And that goes back to Obama. A lot of people say it's because of the voters in Michigan. I don't think so, Chris.
Right.
This goes back to the Obama policies. I was in Israel during the 2014 Gaza war, and Obama, if they would have allowed Israel to defeat Hamas then, we never would have been here today. They've never been. And remember, Netanyahu used taxpayer funds in 2015 to overthrow his government. They've never been pro-Israel. So I think they just are not going to they don't have Israel's back, period. And it's all about the oil. Iran right now is making $35 billion a year in oil. Over 90%, the majority is going to China. They have increased their oil exports up to 1.6 million barrels a day. Mm-hmm. And you compare that to under Trump, that was at 300,000 a day. The sanctions worked. It's all about the oil. And Biden is having, a war on America's energy. Even today, he just announced he's banning oil and gas drilling in Alaska.
Yeah, and he is funding the terrorism Joe Biden funded the attack that Hamas did. He did. He funded it by giving Iran billions and billions of dollars to do it. And it's sickening. I appreciate you so much, Tera, and everything you do for this show. We look forward to having you on again, and I'd love to have you on again in the near future. And you have a great night and a great weekend.
Thank you, Chris. You as well.
Thank you. There she goes. Tera Dahl, former Deputy Chief at National Security Council, Trump administration, America's Voice special report host, and Instagram Tera_Dahl, DAHL. Okay, y'all. I will continue next. We're going to talk about the jurors. We have a jury seated. The Trump trial starts Monday. There's insane things happening. We're going to get to that next on the Chris Kroc Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make that a preset as well.